The plan is to go over MLA formatting in several different ways and then actually demonstrate how to do it. I'm going to also give you a link to what I think is one of the best sources and things I share with my students all the time that I found online. I did not create it, but I use it regularly in my brick and mortar classroom, and my students in the past have really found it useful as a quick reference guide. So we're going to be looking at several different items, but today what we're going to focus on is our MLA format. So MLA formatting is meant specifically for our humanities courses. So these are things like English and history, and they're a certain way of formatting your pages so that your reader can know where you got your information without like it interrupting the flow of your ideas. So it doesn't kind of get in the way, if that makes sense. So it is a really important thing to avoid. Using MLA formatting does a couple things. We know what to expect when we look at our essays, and it's really fast to determine who wrote the essay and who did the writing, but it also helps us quickly find our sources and the quick source information we need, as well as that works cited source. And so this helps us avoid plagiarism as well. This is the website, and I'm actually going to go into this mode so I can actually share the link on the chat in case you want to grab it. So let me go into my Drive really quick. We're going to share this to just a second. He's not here right now. He'll be back in about an hour. Okay. Sorry about that. I have visitors coming to see my kiddos. So I'm going to copy the link so I can actually put it into our chat really quick. So let me get into chat for you, and that way you have this link to this great source. It is created by, let me get back into my PowerPoint here real quick, sorry. So it is created by Presto Plans, but if you actually look at the source itself, which is what I was just in, it is this. Let's see here. Did I accidentally close it out? I'll open it up and show you what I have, but I'm actually going to be giving it to you. So this is actually, if you printed it out, you'd have foldable pages that show you a works cited page, how to format your page, in-text citations, and how to correctly format short and long quotations. This is an invaluable source, and I really, really recommend you use it. The other one that is really a great source is Purdue. I've used it since I was in college. And I'm going to actually send that to you as well through chat. The link, even though if all you have to do for the Purdue is type in Purdue, and it's going to come up with a website because it is so popular for their MLA format page, their landing page. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so this is actually, you're going to see like images of little snips of this source throughout my presentation because I was going to create one of these and then I found it, and it is amazing and very useful. So I really recommend you grab that if you can. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go over the part that's probably the first thing we need to go over, which really is what it should look like to create or format your page. I'm going to give you a chance to write notes, and also if you need to go through here and so write notes, but I would recommend not just writing notes, but when I go back over here in a second, I'm going to go back out of the PowerPoint and show you how to actually do it, because I think it's really easy to give you a list of what to do, right? You need 1-inch margins, you need a header, you need page numbers, all these things you have to include, but it doesn't necessarily tell you how to do it, right? And so I'm going to show you both in Word and in Google Docs, because I think if you can master either one of those, generally you can find the other like word processing programs where they do these things. So the things you need, I have an image here that has our a sample first page on an MLA formatted essay. And so you must have 1-inch margins, which you can see right here. We have 1-inch margins and they go all the way around. You cannot change your top, bottom, side to side margins. And I promise you, I can tell the difference as a teacher. I'm 15 years into teaching, and teachers can tell when things are not done correctly just by looking at them. This is 1-inch margin. That's, you can see the margins all the way, well, at least here you can see them all the way along this edge here, along the left edge and along the top. You do need to include your last name up here. This is in the header, and I will show you how to do that in just a second, including a page number. So last name and a page number. Do not put your heading, which is this portion right here where you've got student name, teacher's name, class title, and the date. Don't put the heading inside your header. A lot of students think you need that on every page. You don't want that. It wastes a lot of space. What you want to do, and it's incorrect, so you want it just to be on your first page, and I'll show you how to do that and make sure that you avoid putting it in what you call the header. So your last name and the page number goes into something called the header. They're inside that 1-inch margin. And then your heading is where your personal information is right here. You also want to always, always, always have a title. I always have students ask, do we need a title? You want a title, and avoid it being something like, if you're talking about Romeo and Juliet, don't title it Romeo and Juliet. Sorry to say, Shakespeare's already pulled that title, and you don't get to use it because that would be plagiarizing. Now, you could use Romeo and Juliet inside your title. You just can't use that as your entire title. And then the last thing you always want to do is have a doubled space. Double spacing from top to bottom. A lot of students try to put in an extra space between like the date and the title, or an extra space between your paragraphs, and I'll show you why you don't want to do that and what it should look like. Okay? All right. So again, 1-inch margins, last name and the page number in the header, double spaced and left margin not centered. The title is the only item that is centered. And then your heading includes student name, teacher name, class title, and the date. And you want to write the date out. This is a formal and academic paper. Okay? So we're going to pause here. Do you have any questions on what to put onto this for page formatting before I go into how to do it? Shaketa, just so you know, on your meeting your meeting window, you can actually click yes or type in a chat, which really helps me know if you're following along, so we know if I know to slow down or to speed up, or if you've got something or need help. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so let's go into Word really quick. I'm actually not going to do Word. I'm going to go into my Google Doc. I have a blank doc to show you. My recommendation, I'm going to actually show this to you 2 different ways, but my recommendation is that before you do anything on the paper, you do these things. So this is the part where you might want to take notes if you can. So the first thing, or I might type them into chat as well. So the first thing I always go and do is I will go in and double space everything, because I want the double spacing to be first, okay? And the way you double space everything is by finding the spacing button, and it's the same on Word. I will actually try to open up Word really quick as well on my computer so that you can see it there as well. I'll do them at the same time. So, or we'll do them one and then the other. So you're going to double space everything by clicking on this button right here. It's the line spacing button. So to do the double space everything, what you're going to do is click on line spacing button, choose double space. It's pretty simple on that one, right? So we're going to go in here, choose double. And my internet's a little slow, so this is dragging along. Let me know. After we double space everything, I like to put in my header, which, if you remember, the header requires last name and page number. The thing is, whatever you put in the header, it is actually going to put it on every single page. That's the cool thing about that header. But you have to format the page numbers to change, because if I just went in there and typed Valone 1 for page number 1, it will have Valone 1 on every single page. You want it to go Valone 1, and on page 2, Valone 2, Valone 3, or whatever your last name might be. So there's a couple ways, and I actually prefer double click into top inch of page. This is going to open up your header. From there, you want to do a right align. So up here where it's like centered left align, go to right align. Oh, excuse me. I did that wrong. We do not want to go into the header. I do this a couple different ways, but the simplest way for students is to avoid the header, and you can go to insert. It's a little different in each one. Header and page number. Click on the header. Except for we want insert, header and page number. We're going to click on page number. And then what's going to show up is these boxes with your choices. You want them in the top left corner, and we're not going to have a title page. So this one doesn't have the title page. You can see the 1, 2. This one has a title page where we see the page with very little on it and then the number 1. Okay, so I want this one almost always. And what you can see is this like gray numbering, and that is formatted to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's page numbered. It's formatted to do page number. All you want to do is bring your click in front of the gray box or the number and type your last name and provide a space. Interestingly enough, Google's weird because this puts it on the very edge of your page when it prints out. So I always actually recommend in Google Docs that you also hit the enter button once to bring it down. So insert is the direction. So we're going to go insert, header, and page number. And then choose, if we remember, you want to choose the right aligned on the top of the page. Okay, so that way, if you can see the directions, if you want to copy and paste these, and then gray box will appear, and place cursor in front of the box of gray box and type last name. So there you go if you want to grab the directions. So now I have double spacing done and I have my header in there. The next thing that needs to happen, and I guess I should have said this, margins are generally always set to 1 inch. I know it is Google's default, and sometimes Word is set to 0.3/4 of an inch. So I'll show you how to check both of those. So to check your margins, you're going to come into page setup, and it actually shows you the margins right here, and they're all set at 1 inch. Okay. So verify margins at 1 inch by clicking file and then page setup. Okay. All right. So now we've got just a couple things left. We've double spaced. We've put our page number and our last name on there. We've checked our margins. We now need to have our heading. So we're going to type in our name, and I'm actually going to use my name so you can see how this goes. Actually, I'm going to just do student. Yeah, we'll do my name as an example. And then you put the class. We'll just pretend I'm in English 10. And then let's double check my. I want to make sure every one of them's a little different, and I want to follow this. So student name, teacher name. That's why, because I'm the teacher too. So we're just going to put Miss Professor in there just to kind of do that. I knew I was missing a name. So your name, teacher name, class title, and then the date. And today's date is 2018. Okay, so next step is to start typing, heading in, and only clicking the return button once at end of each line. Okay, so from here, once you hit enter, we need to do our title. So I would just hit center, title, enter, and remember to go back to left format. Title is centered. And then the big one is that a lot of students forget to do is to go back to that left align. Okay? So that puts us here. And then we can put in our essay. So I'm just going to copy and paste the document I have. Let's see here, where did I put that? Right here. So that you can kind of see what it should look like. Okay? Copy, just because I don't want to waste your time watching me type up a bunch of paragraphs. So we're going to paste without formatting, and so it's there. So notice I've got indents for each paragraph. There is no extra space between the bottom of this paragraph and the next one here. It does start on another line, but it does not have an extra space. If I hit enter between my two paragraphs, this is too much of a space. It's a waste of paper, kind of. You could have a whole line of text there. So you want to avoid that, okay? So, and I'm going to avoid extra spaces. Okay. Oops, I can't spell paragraphs. What? So anyway, so that is how you're formatted. And the really great thing is, now that you're done, you can see page 2 is automatically formatted down here. It'll stay double spaced. It will stay 1-inch margins. It'll stay left aligned. So once you set all that up, it's done. You don't ever have to do it again for that paper. So if we went into Word, it's very much the same thing. Just slightly different and not 100%. So the margins for Word, I'm only going to kind of show you the differences here. So, and I'm going to show you one other thing I want to show you is what it's like if you already have text. Say you typed and forgot to do your MLA format. That's okay. You just have to go about it and making sure you highlight everything that needs to be highlighted. So say you type 2 paragraphs and now, oh wait, I forgot to do my MLA format. So the way you do that is you go to layout. This is in Word. Okay, so layout, and then you're going to check your margins by clicking margins, and you want the normal, which Word is set at 1 inch. Okay, so layout, so we go the layout, the little arrow means the next step. So layout, margins, and then choose normal, 1 inch. So this is for Word, okay? And then, so that's all checked there. So we're going to go back to our Home tab. And it doesn't want to work. There we go. Okay, So the next thing I'm going to do is I need to set up my header. So we'll go into Insert, and this is almost exactly like on Google. You're going to choose page number. You want it at the top of the page when it decides to do its thing. What did I do? Okay, insert top of page, and you want the ones that are come on. Why does it keep doing that? Okay, there we go. So it inserts it, and Word is really nice because it actually puts it down, the cursor, where you need to type your last name. So you don't have to do any of that. So we have for your page numbers, you're going to go to Insert, page number, and then top of page, and it's the third one down, so left aligned. Or excuse me, it's not left aligned. That is right aligned. That's how you click on the and don't forget your last name. Okay. All right. So now we've got that, and to get out of the header, you just double click below the line. So then the next thing we need to do, I am going to double space everything from top to bottom. Again, so we go to 2.0, and that'll go from the very beginning to the very top. Now, if you have text in there already, highlight all of the text before double spacing. Okay? And the reason I'm doing the chats just in case is so that you can copy and paste all of this. Yes, I just saw your text. Sorry, Shiketa. And I really do hope I'm saying your name right. The first layout was Google Docs. Yes, the first one was Google Docs. Is that what you use for your papers when you're writing essays and stuff for your classes? Okay, so I'm going to finish this really quick because we are recording so that people can watch if it's on Word, and I'm almost done. Okay, so but that was Google Docs, and so that's the one you'll want to copy paste. Is everything above what I said, the word in chat will get you the directions for that. Okay, so after you have double spaced everything with your text, what you'll want to do is move. Actually, you don't even need to do that. If you just hit enter once and go back up, and you need to make sure you're all the way, your cursor is all the way to the side, you're going to type in student name, teacher name, class, date. And then we need a title, so we hit enter once only to go to the next line, and then type in our title. Okay? And so now you can see how you're also able to do all of this, and we see Valone 2 over here, even if you've started doing font, text or typing your text prior to MLA format. Okay, so that is with Word. It's slightly different, but generally it's the same stuff. You just have to kind of look for your insert page numbers. Your layout is a little different for your margins, but everything else should look the same. Okay. Before we move on, do you have any questions about formatting your page today? Hi, KS. Thank you for joining us. If you could, we're taking attendance in case people are being offered extra credit. So, and your academic coaches are kind of taking attendance. So, KS, you just kind of joined us. If you could even private message me your first and last name, that would be awesome. Just so I can give my attendance to the correct people, pretty please. You can just type that into our chat. All right, so what we've done so far, for those of you who entered, was go over how to do Google formatting. And then, not Google formatting, excuse me, MLA formatting, but I showed you in Google Docs and I showed you in word. Okay, so after that, what we have going on is I'm going to go back into my PowerPoint to show you how to do citations. Okay, so let's go to in-text citations. And the number one way to avoid plagiarism is by putting in citations. As a teacher, if you're trying to cite it, even if it's not done correctly, I know you're not trying to take someone else's ideas. So that is a whole different ball game, and we just work on teaching you the correct ways to do that versus grabbing a hold of someone else's ideas and using them as your own without even attempting to cite. Citations, I think students get a little nervous about them, but they're not really that hard to do if you know the basics. So in-text citations is when you're using information from an outside source. And just so you know, Chiquetta, this is, if you followed the link I sent to, in the group chat first, all of this information is actually on that page. And so you could just print it out and keep it so you don't have to take so many notes. I really, really recommend, or at least saving that document, that PDF. It's extremely useful. I use it a lot, okay? But I just want to kind of go over how to do this a bit. So in-text citations are when teachers and professors are going to ask you to use actual word-for-word quotes from someone else. Or if you're going to paraphrase someone from a different source, you want to be able to cite it. And it's just using parentheses and either the location, the URL, the page number. It depends on the kind of material you're using. Because if you're in a book, it's really easy to give the last name of the author and a page number. But if you're on a website, you want to give the URL or the website address in order to show your citation. So it kind of varies up a little bit based on what information you have. You want to be as precise as possible. So even if you used a book that's online, if you can get us to the page number of the book, that's way better than just the online URL. So when you're doing your in-text citation, and that means you're typing along and you decide to put a quote in, you want to make sure you're able to, so you'll want to make sure that you're able to find that information in your works cited page, but that your reader is able to find that exact quote from, or that exact page number and that exact quote on the page number. I don't know if I really kind of made a ton of sense there, but the idea with the in-text citation is you're writing your own words, you put someone else's words in there to support your idea, and after it you tell us as precise as you can go the location of that quote. If it's just a website, you just have the website. That's okay. If it's a book, the page number is great. If it's a poem, the title of the poem is fine with, or excuse me, the author's name, because what's going to happen is I'll go and find Robert Frost in your works cited page to find out exactly where that came from, if that kind of makes sense for you. So an example would be, if you look at the little pencil here, Robert Frost stated that poetry is what gets lost in translation. That is a direct quote because you're actually using his words. And we have parentheses 242. So that's in a page number. We don't know the book title, but I'm going to look for that in the works cited page, which we're going to talk about next. So you can just use the page number. I'm going to demonstrate it using a URL because I have a quote from a speech, and I'm actually going to show you using Roosevelt, the last name of the author, or the person who gave the speech, but also the URL, just in case you didn't have the author's name. But it's better that you use author's last name and then the location of the most precise location you can find. So if you look down here, excuse me, on, it jumped around there, just a second. Down, I can't move it down, but down here on the bottom, an online film critic stated that the 2013 version of Romeo and Juliet turns what should be a hanky-required tragedy into a headache-inducing travesty. And that's Ebert Romeo and Juliet review. So you're telling us who the author was and what they wrote in. It's not a website, but you are letting us know that he's online. Note the website is the NewYorkTimes.com. You can see that kind of up here. But I would find that in the Works Cited page. You want the author and the title if you need it. Okay? I really hope that was helpful. This one is more of a let's do it to kind of see how easy it is, because it's a lot easier. Yes, exactly. The author would be Ebert. That's a good question. So you see how Ebert has the comma there? You actually don't have to always have the comma. The modern MLA wants as little extra space as possible. So just Frost 242 works. Up here, it's more for clarification, so Ebert doesn't get mixed in with Romeo and Juliet. So Ebert's the author, and instead of having a page number, we have where he wrote it, because it's Romeo and Juliet review. So we're still being very precise. We have the author and exactly where that piece of information is coming from. Okay? So, and I have a couple more examples before I show you how to do it. So if you have a short quotation, you just kind of put quotation marks around it, and you put parentheses at the end with your author and the page number, or you put parentheses with the URL. Okay? Some believe that they are devoid of the inner struggle that makes for great tragedy. Smith 320. I'm going to see if it's going to let me, we're going to annotate this really quick. So one of the things I want you to be aware of is this right here. The way they set this up, there's just quotation marks, okay? And then those other quotation marks end right there, okay? A lot of students think that a comma needs to go between tragedy and the parentheses. They do not. You do not put, or a period. You don't put anything there. This helps, the period goes at the end of the citation, because this tells your reader that the Smith 320 goes with the quote directly before it, because the end mark, that period right here, okay, that period that happens there closes everything off. So the quotation mark, the quotation mark happens, parenthesis, a space, parentheses, your citation, and then parentheses, a period. And that's really, really important. So I recommend you take that down as notes, or at least try to remember that there is, the period does not go here after the quote, it goes after the parentheses. Okay? Generally, there isn't always a comma here. It kind of depends on how you introduce your quote. Okay. So I hope that part made sense with the way to punctuate it, not just what to put. We're going to talk about what to put and how to put it in a few minutes. I mean, we've already kind of talked about it, but I think it'll make more sense when you see some works cited pages too. So the last thing, and this is going to be quick because generally I don't see this a lot, is long quotations. They're a little bit different because we don't put quotation marks around them. They get indented, and I will show you how to do that on the page here. Yes, exactly, Shaketa. The citation always goes before the period. You want to make sure the period is after the citation, because it tells us that that citation goes with the sentence that the period is ending. It's not moving into your next quote. Okay, that was a great question. You always put the period after the citation. Okay, all right. So if you notice right here, this is indented because it's a much longer quote. And then because it's indented, we know it's a quote, so we do not need quotation marks like we have over here. And we can put the period right after the actual quote because even the citation itself is indented. So the Greenberg 335 right here is indented with the rest of the quote. So we know that that citation goes with this quote. So we don't need to punctuate it differently. It'll be pushed in or indented, and I'm going to demonstrate how to do that right now, okay? So one of my all-time favorite speeches, let me see if I can stop the annotation. Okay, so one of my all-time favorite oh, hold on. Clear all drawings. Okay, so one of my all-time favorite quotes is from Man in the Arena. It's a Teddy Roosevelt's it was a Teddy Roosevelt speech that he gave, and it's about people who try, and that those are the real heroes, kind of. Let me go back, okay? What do you mean? Because of the name? Why is there a difference in the citations? The Greenberg 335 and the Smith 320? Is that what you're asking, is why it says that, or why it doesn't have the period? Okay, so I think it'll be more, you'll see it better when I go over to demonstrate it for you, but I'm gonna show it here. So this is a short quotation, and that means that we're putting a small quote inside of a sentence, okay? That we can do that with short quotations. But then when they're really long, we do a block quotation and we push it, or we indent the whole quote itself in. And so visually the reader knows that that's a quote. It's not your work. And so we don't have to put a period at the end of a sentence like we do with the short quotation. See, this short quotation, this quote is inside our sentence. Some believe that, and then there's a period there. And this tells us that the Smith 320 goes with that, this sentence over here. But in the long quotations, they're blocked. And so they get pulled over. All the quotes get pulled over when they're more than 4 lines long on your text. So you indent the whole the entire quote. And so now we don't need to know that the citation is going with the sentence before, because it's already indented and the citation stays with the quote. And I'll demonstrate it here so you can actually see what it looks like. And I think it'll make more sense seeing it on an actual page, okay? So let me go in here. This is a quote from Teddy Roosevelt, and I have it up here so I can use both when it opens. I'm going to show you how to do this as a, and I'm going to actually put it in the middle of a paragraph so you can kind of see what it looks like, okay? So this is my quote. I'm going to place it into, we're just going to pretend it's not going to make sense, but it's more about the visual so you see what it should look like to be able to do it your own way, okay? First, we want this double spaced because it is MLA format. So we have this, and right here, maybe I want to add the quote from Teddy Roosevelt, okay? And so in the Man in the Arena speech, oh wait, in Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech, he said that so I'm just going to put this quote in here, and I'm going to actually make it a different, he said that, quotation marks, paste without formatting, just so it doesn't mess anything up. Okay, so I'm going to do this 2 ways. So this is so I'm going to show it to you 2 ways just so you can see it being used as an author and also being used as a URL, okay? Just so you can see kind of what they look like. So the author is Roosevelt, and we actually need to put, because we have several famous Roosevelts, okay? So we do need to put Roosevelt Teddy or Theodore. That's his official, I mean, that's his formal name. And then we're going to do, if we look at this, it's actually from Citizenship in a Republic is the official speech, but it becomes widely popular and known as Man in the Arenas. So I'm going to add, just like we saw in the example, okay, so I'm going to make this a different color just so you, actually I'm going to highlight it. I think that'll help you see it better versus what else I did. So if you can see this, this is if we were using it as a short quote, a very small piece of this, right? In Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech, he said that credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. We have quotation mark here, quotation mark there. Parentheses are author and the specific speech he gave, parentheses, period. Okay? The other way you could do this, and I'm going to just copy and paste this whole thing so you can see it. I'm going to show it to you as if I did not know who said it and I got that information. We're just going to pretend in order to demonstrate what it would look like if it was just from the URL, okay? If all you have, because I got that information from a website, I did go in and actually copy and paste it from here. If you just had a website, you would copy your URL, go back into your document, and you would just end up using the URL in this place, in this example. And I'm only doing this way. I know it's incorrect because of the author, but I want you to see what a URL citation would look like. Okay? So the next thing I want to show you really quickly is this example, or these two examples up here, are if we're doing it very short, those short quotations. They're not even a line long, correct? But what if I wanted to include this entire speech, or this entire paragraph almost, as a quote? That's more than 4 lines. So we have to do something a little different. I do want to embed it inside a paragraph so that you can see. Yeah, you should use the whole URL. Like, you can get rid of the, see, I would just copy and paste the whole URL. That's what I do. I've always done it that way because then you're safe. If you accidentally take, sometimes anymore, the HTTPs are shifting because they're using new types of sites, or the HTMLs at the end, those are almost always there, but sometimes without them, it'll take you to a different site. And the whole point of this is being able to tell your reader, this is exactly where I found it. So I would use the whole URL. It's not going to hurt you. It's better that you're more specific than less specific. And if you accidentally cut out a spot, it might mean they don't find your evidence, and you want to avoid that, okay? So if I put in this new paragraph, I'm just going to, I want you to see the long quote. You've got some great questions, so keep doing them. This is a great, like, you've got some really, really good questions, and I'm glad that you are asking them. So long, I'm going to just long quote, and long quote is equal to 4 or more lines, okay? Just so you're aware. And I'm going to take this to the next page or you won't be able to see everything, okay? So if I put in this paragraph, and again, it's not going to make sense because it's nothing to, this paragraph has to do with MLA, but I want you to see what it looks like, okay? Again, I'm going to put this right here. In his famous speech, comma, Man in the Arena, comma, Theodore Roosevelt said. Now, a long quote gets the quote, a colon. Okay, I'm going to highlight that for you real quick, just so you see that. Okay, and then you're going to, I'm just going to drag this in here. And okay, so the thing is when, so now it's all part of our paragraph. We have quotation marks here, but your quote needs to be on its own in the middle. So you want to make sure it's all lined up together along the left-hand margin. See how I had removed that indent. You highlight the entire quote, and drag it, Google's different, over to this ½ inch mark, okay? The whole quote now moves over here. So visually as a reader, I can see that this right here, this area is different than the other parts of the paragraph, and that screams at me that that's a quote. The highlighting is just so you can see it better. It is not what you need to do to the quote, just to make sure. I did the ... dots because there's like 4 more parts to this quote, and you either want to end with the period, the end quotations, or the end punctuation, which is a period, exclamation point, or question mark. So it's not a period, it was a semicolon. So I removed that and did the ellipses because it indicates there's more to the quote. Okay? But we still do parentheses, and we're going to do, we'll just say Roosevelt, and it's called Citizenship in a Republic. Parentheses. Okay? So notice this is the rest of my paragraph, right? The starting part of my paragraph, the rest of my paragraph. And I'm going to highlight this so you can see the whole part that goes up to putting that quote in. Okay? So this is what a long quote would look like. And now I'm hoping, because you saw this, compared to this, take this one and look at the short one. Do you see why we put a period here is so we can break where my cursor just went? Excuse me. Right here, we put a period because it indicates that this quote goes with the yellow sentence, not the one after it. Okay? Where down here for a long quote, we know this citation goes with this because it's indented along with the rest of it. So we don't need a period. Okay? Okay, works cited pages. Have you used Citation Machine before? Actually, I'm going to pause really quick. Do you have any more questions before we move on to works cited pages? Okay. So have you, I'm assuming the no was no questions. Will you yes or no me if you've used the Citation Machine before? Okay. So I'm going to show this to you because it's a great resource for you to use, and you're more than welcome to use it. But you don't have to, you can create your own. So let's go to the PowerPoint really quick, just so I have an example works cited page to show you and to kind of go over where you can find this information right here is in that page I gave you, the link that I sent on the chat group at the top. It's really, really useful. Again, it tells you the things you're looking for. The tricky thing is not all websites have an author. I mean, you have to dig sometimes to find it, but if you cannot absolutely find the author, that's okay. Sometimes they will be a URL and it's not a book. Or sometimes you might not get the dates published, or whatever it is that you can't find. The trick is you need to put in absolutely as much of this information that's right here that you can find, okay? So again, I wouldn't write this down because it's in the page. So if you're gonna have that page and print it out or keep it somewhere, you don't need to write it down. But in general, you want your author's name, the title of the book, which gets italicized, and it tells you how to punctuate it correctly too here. So author's name goes last name, first name, followed by a period. And then the title of the book would get italicized, followed by a period. Location the book was published is then followed by a colon, which is the ... The name of the company that published it, followed by a comma, and then your year it was published. Or the medium of publication. Was it a web publication or a print publication? Also followed by a period. Okay? If all this information takes up more than one line, which a lot of times it will, you indent the second line, not the first line. Okay? So this is what it would look like. I'm going to get rid of my annotations real quick. Clear. Clear. And then look, this is your example, okay? So we have author right here, okay? The name of the book is italicized, where it was published, who published it, Modern Language Association, the year, and that it is print, okay? We come down to Russell Toney, Alan Brizzi, Elizabeth Angeli, and Russell Keck. This is MLA Works Cited page, basic format. This is the title. So we have our authors, title of the Works Cited page, the name of the website, who created the website, that it is a web material. It's not print material, it's online, and then the date that it was created. Okay, so these should give you an example. Note, they are alphabetized by the first last name, okay? They are also indented on the second line if it goes to a second line. All right, there is an example also on that page, but I wanted to show that it's different than this, so I wanted to show this. It's only different because it's not the same words, but it's the same format. The other thing to note on this one is Russell, Toney. Last name, first name. However, Alan Brizzi, Elizabeth Angeli, and Russell Keck are all the second, third, fourth, and 15th authors, if there are that many authors, would be first to last names, if that makes sense for you. So the very first entry for your author would be last name, first name, and then after that you just list out the other authors using first name and then last name with a comma between each author. Okay? Okay, so let's go to, because I really want to demonstrate one quick thing. Citation machine. If my website's been really slow, my internet's been slow today. So we're going to actually go in here. It'll actually format an APA Chicago style MLA format, and it will generate your works cited page for you. So when it goes in here, I'm going to demonstrate maybe a couple things. We'll do, what's really cool is it'll search the internet while it's loading. It's going to actually search the internet for you to fill in any information you might not have been able to find. Okay, so we're going to create a citation. We want to use MLA format. Now, if you're doing science or math, they're probably going to ask you to do APA. So remember, citation machine will help you do that if you don't know how to do it. Okay. Sorry it's taking so long. While we're waiting, do you have any questions? Do you have any other assignments you need help with that we can either come back to, or any other work? Okay. So I'm actually going to use the book. Okay, I can help you with English 12 in just a second. So let me do this. Actually, we're going to use that. This will work. Let's do interesting. Okay, let's see if I can find a speech hopefully in here. Review, press release. I don't see a speech in here, so and I don't want to waste your time doing this. Let's just call this we don't want to do that. Let's just go back. We'll do a book. Okay. All right. What assignment in English 12 do you need assistance with? It's not wanting to go. There we go. Okay. Actually, we're going to use. So, because I know English 12, I believe English 12 has the crucible in it. Pretty sure. So we'll just use this as an example. So it's going to find all the information. See? Good. So we'll do this really quick, and I'm going to show you how to do it, and then I'm going to the Crucible search books. We're going to select the Arthur Miller book because that's the one I actually used to. So I created the lessons in the Crucible for your English 12, so I can help you with that very much so. Okay. So final step, and it's going to create it for you. Okay. Citing the whole book. It's all down here if you look at this, and create citation. Okay. So literally it'll look it up for you. You could put in a URL and it'll find that for you, and it's going to do as much of this as possible for you. But you might have to add some extra pieces in. Like I could go in and add a volume, or pick a specific page number, whatever I wanted to do. Okay. So then I'm going to, I don't know if I clicked that. It keeps catching. So, okay. So when I click this, it's doing it right now. Citation was created successfully, and I accidentally did 2 of them, but that's okay. And then you can download it to a bibliography to edit in a word processor, which will actually you can create another citation. So I could go in and put in something else. But let's download just so you can see what it looks like, okay? And then we're going to be all done, and I'll help you with your characters. And thank you for your patience with my internet. We had the wind is blowing really bad, and I don't really bad, so I'm not sure if something happened to my internet use right now. Okay, so you're going to have to create an account, but when this happens, it'll actually download it in a works cited page because I don't use this right now. I don't